Welcome to another video. This week, we're gonna learn how to make a classic Hollywood-style majestic lyrical theme. This is the kind of music that you'll hear play while the camera pans over mountain ranges, or when the hero gives a speech about truth and justice, or really any other kind of scenario that calls for a sense of nobility and majesty. In other words, we're gonna learn a template for writing music that sounds like this. So the first thing we'll want to do is to set the stage for our theme by looking at the tempo and time signature. You'll find that most traditional grand and majestic themes will stick to just a simple meter like 3/4 or 4/4 time. They also tend to work with relatively slow tempos, somewhere from around 60 BPM to around 100 BPM. This example was written in 4/4 time and with a tempo of 70 BPM. Harmony-wise, this style of music is actually pretty simple. You'll want to stick to using just major keys and mostly triads. There's really no reason to get too fancy here, since most of the personality for this template comes from the melody and the orchestration. However, you are welcome to try experimenting with pedal tones and sus chords, both of which are pretty common in this genre. If we look at the piano sketch for this piece, you can see that I used a single suspended 4-chord in measure 9 to help create something that we will call a heroic half cadence. A heroic half cadence is when you end a chord progression on the 5 chord, just like a normal half cadence. However, directly before the 5 chord, you're going to perform a suspended 4 or a suspended 2 built on the same root. That means if I'm ending on G major, then I will play either a G sus4 or a G sus2 directly before it. As a reminder, you can create a suspended 2 chord just by taking a major or minor triad, and then lowering the 3rd scale degree down to a 2nd scale degree. You can do the opposite and raise the 3rd into the 4th to create a suspended 4. So here, I just took the B that's normally found in G major and replaced it with a C to make G suspended 4. Now, if this is confusing to you, I recommend checking out my playlist on Harmony for composers, which you can find in the description of this video. Now, as I mentioned, most of this genre's personality actually comes from the melody and the orchestration. So melody-wise, there are only 2 guidelines we'll need to keep in mind. The first is that you should use plenty of large leaps. The most common are perfect fourths and perfect fifths, but minor sevenths and major ninths are also very useful. This is because a minor seventh is just essentially 2 perfect fourths stacked on top of each other, and a major 9 is just 2 perfect fifths. If we take a closer look at our example, you'll notice that we start right away with a motif built mostly on large leaps. The melody only moves by step a few times, and even then it almost always follows with another large leap. In addition to this, most lyrical and majestic themes are going to focus on using long and legato articulations, instead of shorter staccato ones. Short, crisp notes don't usually have much of a place in these types of melodies, and the grand majority of themes you come up with for this genre are likely to be more on the legato and lyrical side of the spectrum. Finally, let's talk about orchestration. This whole genre could be described as being built for brass instruments. 9 times out of 10, the melody will be played by either the trumpets or the French horns. And when not playing the melody, the horns are almost always going to be playing an interesting countermelody. The tuba will usually be on the bass line, and trombones are available for harmony if you choose to use them, but I didn't in this particular piece. Other than the brass, the strings are typically used to double the melody and the bass line, and can even be used to provide some harmonic support if needed. This helps give the music a more cinematic feel. The woodwinds aren't nearly as common in this genre and typically get left out. However, if you do want to use them, they'll typically play things like runs, arpeggios, trills, and other kind of ear candy to add a little bit of texture and flourish to the sound. And finally, brass percussion instruments like the timpani, tam-tam, and sometimes suspended cymbal are a must. They're typically used to highlight important beats or to build into large climactic moments with a swell and a crash. So with all of this information in mind, let's listen to our example one more time. And while we listen, I'll include notes on the screen to point out how the template is being used. And with that, we have reached the end of another video. Now, templates like this one can be very useful as a starting point, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you need to write a majestic theme. However, they are cliché for a reason, and you should never rely entirely on a template if you're looking to write interesting and emotionally rich music. Once again, I want to thank my wonderful patrons for their support, as well as all of you who show your support through the many different kind and supportive comments, emails, and messages that I receive. I appreciate each and every one of you. So until next time, keep studying, keep working hard, and keep writing new music.